Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Movie Nights Roundtable. Live, it is I, Dalton Burdett. It is just going to be me this Friday evening. Nicholas is enjoying the weekend off. You might be wondering, it's 8:30. It's not 9 o'clock. Why the hell are you starting the show early? Mostly just because I have somewhere to be late tonight. But other than that, I figured let's just get it in early. Be a nice quick show, hopefully not more than 30, 45 minutes. Got some great movie news stories to talk about, got some interesting things to discuss. And if you want to be part of the conversation, please just leave a comment in the live chat. I will bring it up onto the screen like so. In between topics, I will address each one and we can have that discussion. You can be a part of this community. That's what I love and adore. If you feel inclined to send us a super chat, never feel like you have to, we'll obviously prioritize those. Now, something I do want to also remind everyone of is sometimes when you're surfing the internet, your information's not safe, and if you're a movie lover, you want to watch something on a streaming service, but you can't find it anywhere, and you don't want to spend the money to rent it, so what do? You use NordVPN, and that's how you can watch movies from streaming services in other countries. How do you get NordVPN? Easy. Just click the link in our description. Use our affiliate link. We're happy to partner with them. They have a big Black Friday sale coming up, so be ready for that. It's incredibly cheap, and if you do it, you support the show. We love your support, and we thank you. And NordVPN, I literally use it every single day. Please, huge recommend, go use NordVPN, everybody. With that down, we have a hell of a show, like I mentioned. Clearly my brain is mush. Also had another terrible week like last week. I'm also the only one in my home currently. Please don't come knocking on my door. But that just means if my dog starts barking, there's nothing I can do about it, which is fun. So we'll see how that goes. But with that being said, we have a great show. And first we got to talk about a trailer. And that trailer is this, Crime 101. Starring Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Halle Berry, Barry Keoghan, I believe Monica Barbara's in there as well, Nick Nolte. We'd reported this movie being made when they first announced it. I forget which trade broke it, but Nick and I had discussed this movie and the crazy cast that it had, and we were very excited. We were like, hell yeah, give me this. This sounds awesome. And the trailer is also awesome. Does it ride the line of the generic? Sure. However, you can't deny the star power of the movie. You can't deny that it's going to be just this fun, crime-thrilling dad movie. It looks like dad movie to the max. And sometimes, dad movies find you right when you need them the most. For those of you that don't know what the hell I'm talking about, somehow, a dad movie is essentially that movie that has some action, has some crime, is very cheesy, a little bit over the top, and your dad will love it. Think Expendables, think Con Air, think Face Off, trying to think of like more recent ones. It was a great dad movie that came out this year. Wow, I'm putting myself on the spot. This is really bad for me, but there are tons of great dad movies. Speed didn't come out this year, but great dad movie. And some dad movies are just great movies, like Speed. Speed's awesome, by the way. But you get what I'm trying to say. I thought the trailer was pretty good. I hope the movie is as good as the trailer can be, if not even better. But what did you guys think? Did you have a chance to see the trailer for Crime 101? If not, go check it out. Let me know in the comments what you thought as we move on to our first look image. We have one to go over today, and it's a very important one. We've been reporting on the show the news of the film being made called I Play Rocky, starring Anthony Ippolito, I believe that's how you pronounce it, forgive me if it's wrong, who will play Sylvester Stallone, and the film follows Sylvester Stallone's journey to get Rocky made, where he turned down bigger budgets and took significant pay cuts in order to play the lead role because he believed in himself as the character, as the actor, and wrote the script himself, and the movie kind of goes through that journey. I'm a huge fan of stories about movies being made. I hope they do more of them, actually. I would love to see the story about Jaws being made. That would be unbelievable, but alas, so far, it is I Play Rocky. And let's take a look at Anthony, first name basis, in the first look image. And I gotta say, he looks pretty fantastic. In the full image, you see him with a dog. There's a dog obviously playing Budkiss, who was Sylvester Stallone's real dog, who is also in the Rocky movie. But it looks pretty great. He also played Al Pacino in the TV show The Offer. So this guy's just, if he hears that there's a 70s iconic actor, that's a movie or a TV show made about one of them. He's like, the role belongs to me. There's also an interesting story as to how he got the role. He actually reached out to the producers of the movie and really campaigned for himself to get this role. And he looks great. He looks great. I hope that his performance is great. It's a story that is very near and dear to me, as I not only love the Rocky films, but it's just one of those movies that get you to fall in love with movies. You know, that first Rocky film is excellent. And I've had guests on the show who love that movie, like Adam Sedaris of Films for Breakfast and CACF. He loves the Rocky franchise. And so there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this movie, and I hope that, obviously Anthony can deliver and that the performance shines through and we get to see a great story about someone advocating for themselves, building up their own career, and launching one of the most iconic movies of all time and Best Picture winner. I believe that's the year that Taxi Driver came out as well. A lot of people were upset that Rocky beat Taxi Driver. I disagree. I think Rocky should have won. However, John G. Avildsen beating Martin Scorsese for director, that's pretty inexcusable to me. Martin Scorsese should have absolutely won Best Director, but I digress. Rocky still should have won Best Picture. But anyway, guys, what do you think of the first look image for I Play Rocky? Let us know in the comments as we move on to our first news story of the week. We have plenty of news stories for you today, everyone. And this first one is a bit of an interesting one. It'd be weird if it wasn't. As we know, Denis Villeneuve is going to be making a James Bond film for Amazon. And we had been kind of reporting on that story as more news of the Amazon James Bond was coming out. We know the Broccoli's are no longer attached as creative producers, and they were for the inception of the franchise back in 1962. There's a lot of red flags, a lot of questions, a lot of what's going to happen, but then Denis Villeneuve gets hired. Kind of alleviated some concerns, not all of them, but some of them, especially for people like me, who just did not believe that Amazon was going to be capable of making a great James Bond film in favor of turning it into a Marvel-like universe, which would just be annoying and dumb for everyone involved. No thank you. But some more information about that deal has come out. One being that Denis Villeneuve does not have final cut on the film, which we heard might be the case, and, even for a director of his stature, getting final cut is an incredibly difficult thing to achieve as a director, especially on big studio films. One of the biggest money-mongering places in the world is Amazon, and one of the biggest franchises in the world is James Bond. I didn't expect him to get final cut of the movie, but it is still interesting to see when you think that maybe that would be a negotiating point for a lot of people. I know that Christopher Nolan gets final cut on his films, and he's a huge James Bond fan, and one of the many things that have prevented him from directing James Bond in the past is that he couldn't get final cut, but people thought that maybe since the Broccoli's weren't involved, could be the case. It is not. He will not have final cut on the film. Deadline is where we're going to pull up, and it also talks about the different payment methods that are going through it. So let's pull this up here. We've just got some insight into the financials behind Amazon. I'm reading from the Deadline article now for audio listeners. MGM Studios' blockbuster deal to take creative control over James Bond. Eon Productions, the company controlled by Michael Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, has filed an earnings report in the UK revealing that Amazon MGM Studio paid $20 million for its stake in the 007 franchise. Amazon declined to comment. The full note in the production's earnings report, I'm not going to read the full note, but basically they've been paid $20 million. This is significantly short of the $1 billion figure reported when the Bond deal was agreed, but as Deadline noted at the time, the structure of the joint venture was unknown and could have included a lot of Amazon stock options, which makes a lot of sense considering the stature of Amazon. Sources say that Amazon's deal with Eon is structured as a joint venture, and over time, Broccoli Company is going to get paid. Amazon has the majority stake. The $20 million is believed to just be an initial payment. Can you believe... Or let me rephrase. Could you imagine getting $20 million and be like, this is the down payment? That's fucking wild. I could not even picture having that money in my life. But the article goes on to just talk about more of the earnings, and other trades, when they reported the story, have pointed out that Denis Villeneuve will not be getting a final cut of the film. I didn't pull that out of nowhere, I promise. But yeah, it's not surprising. Amazon does have a lot of money, but no one's just going to shell out $1 billion in cash to give to somebody. But, I'd say a $20 million down payment is pretty good. I don't know about you, I'd say that's pretty good. That's a lot of money, and it's going to be the start of what's going to be a long payout for the Broccoli family and for Eon Pictures. I think that Amazon stock options are obviously going to be involved, as Deadline reported, but I'm curious as to how much and to how it's going to continue to kind of be a new venture, or if eventually I don't know if the Broccoli's can change their mind and say, oh, we want more cash, we want this, we want that. I doubt it, considering these contracts are probably textbooks thick with every lawyer known to man involved. But I thought it was interesting to see how that deal would break down. But what do you guys think? Do you think the $20 million initial payment is an interesting way to do this deal? Are you upset that Denis Villeneuve does not have final cut? Let us know in the comments as we move on to our next news story. And this next one is also a continuing story that we've been covering, and that is the pursuit of Paramount to buy Warner Brothers. But it's gotten a lot more interesting now. Warner Brothers has now officially publicly said that it is for sale. It released a public statement going through that it's going to be talking about the different options, and as I mentioned on last week's show, that John Campea on his show was talking about how they could split the company and then sell the parts. I wasn't sure how realistic that would be, but that was one of the options laid out in their public statement, so it could happen. So now it's really not going to not happen at this point, especially to the shareholders, when you announce that you're going to be potentially for a sale, and then if you suddenly decide to not sell, you have a lot of explaining to do to your shareholders before they sue the hell out of you. A lot of different articles, the New York Times and many different outlets have been reporting that Warner Brothers Discovery has rejected 3 Paramount offers. 3. One of them for just under $24 per share, which is, if you do the math on how much that is, it is an astonishing amount of money that the Ellisons, the richest people in the world, are putting up for Warner Brothers, and it was turned down. But not only was that offer turned down, they offered, if you look in the New York Times article, which I'm not pulling up because I'm not logging in, they offered David Zaslav to be co-CEO of the company. That's quite significant because 2 weeks ago on the show we were talking about how David Zaslav's role will likely be eliminated after this transaction, so he can kind of take his money and run because there's not really room for 2 big dogs in that situation. But even with that offer, Zaslav turned it down. Warner Brothers turned it down. Not good enough. It's gotten more interesting now in that there are several studios who are now interested in Warner Brothers now that they've publicly announced that they're for sale, basically. Comcast Universal was one of them, and Netflix was also one of them. Paramount is obviously still vying for it, and I believe there are other companies too. I just don't have them in front of me, but those are the 3 that stuck out to me the most. Now, let's talk about options here. Comcast Universal, they like to mess around, they like to muddle around, get their hands dirty, and make deals more complicated or interesting. Warner Brothers is obviously going to use the competition to make their value seem more, so that if they do end up selling to Paramount, they're going to make them pay a lot more than they initially thought they would. Comcast infamously infiltrated the Disney-Fox deal by publicly bidding, and then Disney had to up their bid, to end up paying $30 billion more than they had hoped for, which is a shit way to spend some money. But there's one outcome of this that I'm not a fan of. Well, let me be very clear. I'm not really a fan of Warner Brothers being sold, period. I don't think Warner Brothers should be sold. I think it should operate as its own company. I think that David Zaslav, in a shorter period of time, has turned the company around financially to what it was before he got there. However, I don't think it's sustainable with how he leads. So he's trying to cut and run and make it seem like he saved the company and then bailed before the long-term effects of his leadership kind of come into place. So it's a smart move to sell it and run away, which people always thought was going to be the plan with him. But if he doesn't sell it for whatever reason, if he convinces the shareholders it's not worth it, and his plan continues, I wonder how that would play out. But that's a lot of hypotheticals. To me, the worst case scenario of it's going to get sold. I think that's clear at this point. So if it's going to get sold, to me, the worst case scenario is if fucking Netflix buys Warner Brothers. That would be detrimental to the film industry, only because Netflix has made it clear, with the exception of a few things, which I'll get into. Netflix has made it clear that they do not give a flying fuck about the theatrical movie-going experience. And that would basically be dead. And you're talking about Warner Brothers, movies like Sinners, Weapons. Think about the incredible theatrical run that Warner Brothers has had this year. Like 7 films in a row, I think, or 6, 7. Did not mean to fucking do that, Jesus Christ. But those films that all opened to over $40 million, it's crazy, the year that they're having. But They also have DC and Superman. I would hate for DC to be relegated to just fucking streaming. Now, you might be thinking, Dalton, they would probably still put movies in theaters. Maybe, because they've recently announced, we've been following the Greta Gerwig IMAX deal that they have. They've been putting K-pop Demon Hunters in theaters a couple of times. I believe they're doing it again for Halloween. And they're now toying with the idea of putting the Stranger Things finale in theaters, which would be very, very cool if they did that. If they're more open to theaters and give movies full theatrical releases, I'd be a lot more okay with the idea of them buying Warner Brothers. However, at their current state, at their anti-theatrical state, when Ted Sarandos, CEO, constantly talks about how he thinks the movie theater industry is dying and he thinks that streaming is the way and Netflix is the way, and has been very, very clear about that. And when you look at the moves Netflix makes of going to film festivals, buying up these independent films by offering them crazy amounts of money only to bury their film with no marketing and not give it a chance, how many movies or limited series have you discovered on Netflix to go, that was really good, why have I never fucking heard of this? There you go. And it would suck. It would suck horribly if Netflix ended up winning Warner Brothers. I don't want it to happen. I think, I forgot about this. Another company interested is Apple. I would love for Apple to get Warner Brothers. Apple's been very pro-theatrical. They're kind of like Amazon, where they have a ton of money and it doesn't really matter about their film division, but they've actually put effort and care into their film division. They did poorly a little bit financially with Killers of the Flower Moon and Napoleon, but one's a great movie, one's a nice-looking movie. But with F1's success and other ventures that they're going to be taking, it seems like they're not counting out theatrical forever. And they have already partnered with Warner Brothers on a couple of things. They've done co-theatrical releases that way. I think Apple would be an interesting choice, personally. But please no Netflix. Unless Netflix promises to do full theatrical releases for however many films Warner Brothers currently does a year, keep that number and do it again. That would be preferred, definitely. But maybe I'm overreacting. What do you guys think? Do you think that Warner Brothers is going to be able to sell to Netflix? Do you think that Paramount will finally win and the Ellison's quest to get Warner Brothers will be achieved? Do you think it'll be a different company? Before we move on, I just thought about it. Zaslav might be able to make the argument to shareholders that if Netflix bids high, he might be able to make the argument that selling the company to Netflix, despite the high number now, in the long run would not be beneficial to the company because of all the profits they'd be losing theatrically. You could say it's part of his fiduciary responsibility to them. It's an interesting idea, but I don't know if Zaslav cares about the other people that much. I think he cares about himself and getting his money and running, so we'll see. We'll have to see. Let me know in the comments what you think as we move on to our next story. And this next one is a bit of a two-parter. And what I mean by that is that they're both Star Wars related. One of them is going to be the thumbnail that you clicked on for the show, don't worry. But first, the profits of the Disney Star Wars films have been revealed in a new report. I'm pulling this from Forbes. When it comes to finances, they're pretty standard at that point. And this is quite interesting. As you guys know, unless you've been living under a rock, Star Wars had some big movies come out from 2015 to 2020 to 2019, actually. Holy crap, they haven't made one in that long. That's right. But the argument always comes to how profitable have they been, because they're very expensive movies to make, expensive movies to market. Now, of course, with merchandising alone, you're going to make billions off these things. But in terms of theatrical profitability, how profitable was each film? Well, Forbes did the research and has the answer. As you can see here, goddamn ads, there we go. Live shows, gotta love it. Profitability for The Force Awakens in 2015 was $500 million. Holy moly. I'm pulling out my phone because I'm going to calculate all this. $500.2 million. And then Rogue One was $258 million. And that's with all those reshoots that they did. As you can see, that cost is at like $327. They have The Force Awakens cost at $6.38 million, but it also made $2 billion. So there you go on profitability. The Last Jedi was $324 million of profitability. And let's see, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, let's do Solo, negative $103 million, and then Rise of Skywalker, $483 million No, I'm sorry. I'm blind. $48.3 million profitability. That was also a big spend. Solo was negative $103 million, the only money loser here. So let me try to do this. Let's do 500 million plus 258 million plus 324 million plus 48 million. I know it's not exact because of the 0.3s and 0.2s and everything, but hear me out here. That's 1.1 billion minus 103 million. $1,027 million in profitability. Holy fucking shit. That's wild. That is crazy. And they spent $4 billion on Lucasfilm total, and the films themselves have been $1 billion profitable. Now, TV shows have probably not been very profitable because they've been streaming. However, merchandise. I'm sure they've made billions upon billions of profits in merchandise alone. Obviously a good spend for Disney. I remember it wasn't really viral, but when Nick and I started clipping out the show, I talked about what a great purchase it was that Disney bought Lucasfilm because they'd only bought it for, and I incorrectly said $2 billion, and then went on to describe how much money each film made and that they probably even made it back already. Made it through that, the show, made it through the editing. Didn't catch that I was wrong, even though I wasn't trying to be wrong, like I wasn't trying to deceive. And then, of course, the comments immediately clocked that I was off by $2 billion fucking dollars. Really embarrassing when you start clipping stuff out and you get something wrong like that. But the point I was trying to make is that it was a good deal and they've made their money back. And I think they definitely have. And by just having $1 billion in profits on films alone, probably proves that point. That they are just absolutely crushing owning Star Wars money-wise with merchandise. Have they been doing it quality-wise? Up for debate, as everybody knows. But I thought that was an interesting story. But that's not the Star Wars story we're all here to talk about. Oh, no. Not at all. The Star Wars story that we are here to talk about is this. As you guys know, people will often have to pitch movies to studios if they have an idea, especially if it's an IP that they don't own, to say, hey, I want to make a Jurassic Park movie, or I want to make a Toy Story movie, or I want to make a Fast and Furious spin-off movie. So they go to the studio. They say, here's what I think the movie should be. I have a great director in mind. I have a great writer in mind if you're a producer. And I think we could make it. And then the studio has to agree and be like, we like it, hire this writer, or do another draft, or do this, do that. And then if they do like it, they say, great, you're greenlit. Let's get this movie made. Let's go to a distributor. Distributor approves. Great, let's go. Let's get the truck running. Adam Driver tried to do that with Star Wars. Adam Driver famously plays Kylo Ren in the sequel trilogy. Kylo Ren's original birth name was Ben Solo, of course being the son of Han and Leia, the grandson of Darth Vader. Now, apparently, Adam Driver was not done with that character and was very interested in bringing him back. So much so that on a recent press tour and doing an interview, he casually mentioned, by the way, and very publicly, that, me and Steven Soderbergh, amazing fucking director, we're going to make a movie about Ben Solo called The Hunt for Ben Solo. We hired a writer. We got together. We were very excited. We loved what we were doing. We loved the story. We pitched it to Lucasfilm. They loved it. Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni loved it. And we then were greenlit, ready to go, getting ready to shoot. And then Disney said no. What? Why would Disney say no? Even the people who don't like the sequel trilogy, they loved Kylo Ren. They love Adam Driver. They love that character. Apparently, Bob Iger said, I just don't see how Kylo Ren or Ben Solo is alive. What the fuck do you mean, bro? How did the last Star Wars movie open? The dead speak. How did Palpatine return? Fucking somehow. Remember the famous meme from that movie that you made? What do you mean you don't see how Ben Solo is alive? How was Palpatine alive? Darth Maul survived, technically, in Clone Wars. It keeps happening. Even Kylo Ren in The Rise of Skywalker gets stabbed and then force healed. There are so many things you could do. You had Steven Soderbergh ready to make this movie. Why would you turn it down? Fans are obviously pissed. Fans even bought a banner on a plane and flew it over Disney saying, make the hunt for Ben Solo. It's very funny. I'm going to pull up the Deadline article now. It's going to say a lot of what I just told you, but it's still nice to see it from the official place. Adam Driver was not done with the Star Wars universe and pitched Lucasfilm and Disney a spin-off that would have been a direct sequel to The Rise of Skywalker. Driver took the role of Ben Solo for Star Wars sequel trilogy, playing the son of Han Solo and Leia Organa, the grandson of Anakin Skywalker, best known as Darth Vader. As you may know, Ben Solo turns into the villain Kylo Ren, who has a redemption arc and apparently dies at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. However, Driver felt his character had unfinished business and thought of an idea for a sequel film. I'm quoting him now, "I've always been interested in doing another Star Wars," Driver said in an interview with AP. "I have been talking about doing one since 2023. Or 2021. Again, I'm blind. Kathleen Kennedy had reached out. I always said, with a great director and a great story, I'd be there in a second. I love that character and I love playing him." Driver detailed a concept for a film in which Steven Soderbergh wrote a script for, which the actor says was one of the coolest fucking scripts I've ever been a part of. God damn it. "We presented the script to Lucasfilm. They loved the idea. They totally understood our angle and why we were doing it. We took it to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, and they said no. They didn't see how Ben Solo was alive." Unfucking believable. In a statement to AP, Steven Soderbergh even commented and said, "I really enjoyed making that movie in my head. I'm just sorry the fans won't get to see it." Guys, are you fucking kidding me? That sounds like such a cool movie. And the only place where I can see an understanding Disney is that they've greenlit a lot of shit that should have never been greenlit. And so they were probably like, fucking calm down. We got to figure out what we're doing here. But let's think about it like this. We could have gotten this, The Hunt for Ben Solo, a Star Wars movie directed by Steven Soderbergh, with Adam Driver back in a role that he is saying I would have loved to do when I loved the screenplay that all of Lucasfilm was on board with. This year, or next year, I should say, we're getting The Mandalorian and Grogu, which we've talked about on the show. The trailer does not look very good. I love The Mandalorian Season 1. I love Season 2. Season 3 is a hot pile of shit, but that's okay. The movie looks like Season 3. It does not look very good. And when you have amazing things in that world, like Andor Season 1, Andor Season 2, which was fantastic, Mando 1 and 2, as I mentioned, you have parts of the Obi-Wan show, not all of it, but the finale episode, for example. Rogue One, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, which I'm a defender of. When you have these things and you have the actors playing characters that people love, because again, even of all the people who hated the sequel trilogy, everyone loved Kylo Ren. Everyone. It just baffles me. And part of me is hoping that the online chatter sets it up to that they make the actual movie. I doubt it. I don't think the world is that nice. But it's not nothing. And what I like personally seeing is that Adam Driver kind of took a page out of his co-star from Logan Lucky's book, Channing Tatum, which was also a Steven Soderbergh movie, where Channing Tatum recently was talking about the third 21 Jump Street movie, 23 Jump Street, how he wants to see it get made. It has a great script. However, there's a producer that's fees too high and it makes the budget too high and they can't make it. And he said the producer's name publicly. Power move. And Adam Driver said, you know what? Alan Bergman and Bob Iger fucking killed the Ben Solo movie. So here we are again. I'm very surprised that Soderbergh actually commented. Usually when things like this come out, they must have an expired NDA or something, but it's very interesting that this is coming out now. I hope somehow, way, shape, or form this can actually happen. And hey, if it sucks, if they do it, I'll say it sucks. But I think the idea is cool and would actually excite people. I think it would actually excite Star Wars fans, and they need something to be excited about because the future's not looking very bright, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just kind of exhausting. It's exhausting to see that there's a movie that I think people actually would have really been excited about and dug, see it get killed like that. I also think that one of my favorite things about the sequel trilogy, which, by the way, eventually the kids who were alive when those movies came out are going to grow up and say that they were great. It happened with the prequels. It's going to happen again. But anyway, The Last Jedi. The arc of Kylo Ren, Ben Solo in The Last Jedi, where he decides, I don't need the Sith. I don't need anything that came before. I'm just going to be my own person, my own character path, my own way forward. And he tries to recruit Rey to do the same. I was so fucking excited by the idea of that, the way they set him up at the end of that movie. They immediately undoing it by making him Palpatine's bitch at the beginning of episode 9. Whatever. I've talked about that before publicly. But that idea was cool. And seeing a potential version of the fully redeemed character, an arc that I don't think they should have done but did it very well, I would have been down for. I would have really liked seeing it. It would have been cool. It would have been really cool. But guys, what do you think of the hunt for Ben Solo not happening? Are you as upset as me? Do you understand where Disney was coming from? Or are you like Adam Driver and Steven Soderbergh where they're like, fuck, I wanted to make this movie? Let me know in the comments as we move on to the B-roll. There's only one little B-roll thing I wanted to go over today, and that is this. I found this quite interesting. Nia DaCosta, the director of The Marvels, also director of Candyman, was recently doing an interview and said that she visited the Avengers Doomsday set and that Kevin Feige had asked her to come out, and she's like, yeah, I visited the set, I was looking at everything, it's really nice. Why were you there, Nia? Obviously, it could just be nothing. It could be, like she said, just came to visit and have fun. I think that's a little hint that there's something going on with the Marvels in Avengers Doomsday, particularly maybe Carol and Kamala Khan. Well, we know that Monica Rambeau is also stuck in an X-Men universe and that there are a lot of X-Men in this movie. And it wouldn't shock me, because how the Russo brothers kind of tend to work with characters they're unfamiliar with, a la on Infinity War and Endgame, having James Gunn come in and help do some dialogue with the Guardians of the Galaxy, help make sure that they're still true to what they were mixed in with their film. It would not shock me if they were like, hey, can Nia DaCosta come out here and make sure that we're handling Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan and Carol Danvers correctly? That wouldn't shock me at all. I might be playing and looking too much into it, but I think it's a real indicator that the Marvels are in this movie. We'll have to see. Nick did set up more B-roll stuff in the PowerPoint, but I'll be honest, a lot of it I want to talk about with him next time he's on the show. Hold me to this, guys. There's a story revolving Kevin Costner that's so fucking insane that I want Nick to be here so we can do it together. If I forget next week, hold me to it so that I can bring it up to Nick and talk about it. Anyway, guys, with that down, it's time to move on to the box office, which we always love. Shock, surprise, we didn't do great. Nick and I both got the first 2 right, but I got the 5th one right. Unfortunately, Nick, it stops at the first 2 with him, but let's get to the good stuff where we dive in to the full box office numbers from last weekend. Here we go. Black Phone 2 came in first with $27.3 million in its opening weekend. I believe that's higher than the first film opened. Tron Ares dropped 67% in week 1 to week 2. You'd hate to see that at $11.1 million. Good Fortune came in third with $6.1 million in its opening weekend. One Battle After Another made $3.8 million, dropping 43% from week 3 to week 4. Roof Man came in 5th, making $3.7 million, dropping 54% in its second weekend. Let's dive into these numbers a little bit more. Black Phone 2 now has $55 million worldwide on a budget of 30. It's at 1.9. That's going to be at profitability fucking tomorrow, probably. Good for Blumhouse. They really, really needed the win there, and I love Scott Derrickson. Guys, I have not been to the movies in like 4 fucking weeks. It has been a nightmare month for me. I'm so behind. I gotta catch up. I promise I'm gonna dive into a shit ton of fucking movies and have some reviews for you out soon. There should be a few coming this weekend from me and Nick, so be on the lookout for that. Moving on here. Tron Ares now has $107 million worldwide on a budget of $180. Good lord, only 0.6 times the budget. This will definitely end up being a theatrical loser. Good Fortune now has $9 million worldwide on a budget that's not listed. I guarantee you that budget was a little bit higher given some of the stars involved, but not too high. I could probably see the movie at like 30 million maybe. I'd have to look it up, but it wouldn't shock me if it was lower or higher than that, but I would put the bar at 30. One Battle After Another now has $170 million worldwide on a budget of $140. 1.2 times that budget. Again, it will likely end up being a theatrical loser, but hopefully on, PVOD and with awards consideration, nominations, it can be considered a win in the long run. And Roofman has $19 million worldwide. It's not listed here, but it's on a budget of, I believe, 40. So it's at almost half that production budget. Unfortunately, will also be a theatrical loser, and you really hate to see it. Let's look at some more here. Truth and Treason from Angel Studios has $3 million domestically. No budget listed, but they tend to keep their budgets low, so I wouldn't be shocked if they ended up being okay. But again, I actually don't know. Gabby's Dollhouse, $61 million worldwide on a budget of 32, $1.9 million. It looks like it wouldn't make money theatrically, but I also didn't see any marketing for that. It's also not marketed for me, though, so who knows? It could be. Conjuring Last Rites, the highest grossing movie in that franchise, $484 million worldwide on a budget of 55, 8.8. God damn. That's profit. That is some profit for you. Now it's time to get to the point where I make predictions for next week, and I don't remember what's coming out. So let's see. I know that I've learned my lesson, and I got to remember to include these anime movies, and I think that, is it Chainsaw Man that comes out this weekend? I'm pulling up my phone just to check my local cinema and see what comes out. You would think I prepped this before the show comes out. I'm bad at my job in many ways, but pulling it up here, Dead Air. You really love Dead Air. Doing a show live is just fantastic with absolutely zero setbacks, as you can tell. My phone also decided, hey, we're just going to take ages to load. Fuck you and everything you enjoy. All right. Oh, we got... Guys, so much shit comes out. Okay. I'm going to go Chainsaw Man number 1. Fuck it, number 1. That's what I'm going with. Number 2, I'm going to go... All right, we got Regretting You and the Springsteen movie coming out. The Regretting You reviews are bad. The Springsteen ones are good, but the target audience for Springsteen aren't big opening weekend. I'm going to go Black Phone holding number 2. Regretting You number 3. Deliver Me From Nowhere number 4. Fuck it, One Battle After Another number 5. I think Tron, Ares, and Good Fortune are dropping out. Damn, we'll have to see. It's going to be a very interesting weekend. Maybe I regret all those fucking decisions, but again, we're going to have to see. Guys, please make a prediction yourself in the comments. If you're right, we'll shout you out on the show next week. Also, remind you one more time, please use our affiliate link with NordVPN. Support the show, protect your information, watch movies from other countries on streaming services. Guys, that'll do it for the show. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.